Hey, today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. In the spirit of experimentation, which is honestly the whole spirit of this podcast, I decided to try an audio diary for the final 2 weeks that we were in Japan. I'm just going to warn you, for whatever reason, the first day that I decided to start this audio diary was in the evening after visiting Hiroshima and Peace Park. So if you're not familiar, that is where the atomic bomb was dropped during World War II. I fully am acknowledging the fact that the first entry is sad, but it's also very important. And I also want to let you know that the days that follow are not. So bear with me. Life is all about balance. Okay. I hope you enjoy.
Attention, please. The next stop is Hiroshima. Hiroshima is the fourth stop from here.
Today is December 1st. It is about 8:30 p.m. and we just got off the train and back to our Airbnb after a full day of exploring Peace Park and the Atomic Bomb Memorial Museum. It was a very heavy day, but I think that it is incredibly necessary and important to really dwell in these big and sad things. I think it's just important for the sake of not letting history repeat itself. But I also just think it's important to understand what people have been through. I think that it provides a lot of context for life. Downtown Hiroshima is not at all what I was expecting it to be. It is so beautiful. The whole setting is so beautiful. When you look at it from a topographic map, kind of top down, it's this big river delta with multiple different arms of river heading towards the ocean. And so it creates these really interesting little slivers of land, and there's just bridges everywhere. It kind of feels like, I don't know, like a Japanese Pittsburgh almost. And they had a pretty extensive rail car, kind of like streetcar San Francisco style system in place before the bomb. And that is still something that they utilize in the city today. But Peace Park is kind of situated in this almost kind of like bulbous triangle sandwiched by water on all sides. And the A-bomb dome, which was kind of like a cultural center before the bomb, it was one of the few buildings that was left standing. And they left it, and they've done all this preservation work to ensure that it looks exactly like it did after the atomic bomb went off. And it's very beautiful in this incredibly austere way. It was kind of a Western style building, and it was designed by a Czechoslovakian architect, and it was kind of the pride of the city is what it sounds like. And it had this gorgeous steel, or no, I guess it wasn't steel, it was copper dome. And because it oxidized, it was very green. And apparently like the green dome was the symbol of Hiroshima. And there's something very poetic about the fact that it was one of the few buildings left standing. And it sounds like it was hotly debated for a long time whether people wanted to see it continue to stand or to fall. Obviously, I think to some it brought up a lot of very hard memories and reminders of what happened. That dome and the remainders of that building slowly started to become one of the only reminders of what Hiroshima was before the bomb. So ultimately, it has been preserved, and the dome, for the most part, you know, the exterior of it is gone, but all the little girdles that were holding it up are still intact. So it's kind of this like skeletal little structure at the top. And it is at the very end, when you stand at the center of the Memorial Museum and you look down Peace Park, it is perfectly framed underneath an archway, a reflecting pool, an eternal flame meant to represent the souls of the people who are lost. The whole thing is so beautiful. And right now, being that it's December 1st, we're fully in fall foliage here in Japan, and all the ginkgo trees are just the most vibrant yellow. All the maple trees are juicy reds that kind of fade to green, the remaining little tiny bits of green. And it was so sad and so marvelous. I just feel so lucky and happy that we had the opportunity to come and see this. It felt very important to experience. In the museum, when you walk in, there's this big panoramic image of what it looked like before the bomb hit. And then there's a picture of it after. And almost nothing is left. The trees, what remain are sticks. There's like 2 or 3 buildings in some form of fragment still standing, but it's just gone. So many lives just like wiped off the map in a moment. And, you know, I grew up in Pearl Harbor for a period of time, and I've always been very acutely aware of what happened, so to speak, at Pearl Harbor and the lives that were lost. I mean, honestly, a lot of the government buildings that my dad worked in and around Pearl Harbor still have bullet holes in them. They left them as a reminder. There is a ship that sunk in Pearl Harbor, and it is still leaking fuel to this day. Very moving. If you ever get a chance, go to Hawaii. I really do recommend it. I think it might be the USS Arizona. But I think that since I've been so acutely aware of that side of the story, it's always felt really important to me to see the other side. You know, the atrocities that Japan experienced. And I think that I'll probably be mulling this experience over, like so many things, for so long. But again, I do just think it's really important to understand what war looks like, what it takes from people, from the world. I just think that, yeah, it feels like the world is in a little bit of a fragile state right now. So it just feels maybe more important than ever to really spend some time thinking about what's possible, because it's happened before. Anthony Bourdain, I think, has a quote about the fact that, you know, you don't travel to be comfortable. In fact, like, you travel to be uncomfortable. And sometimes it will just utterly break your heart. And I think that today was one of those days. And while we were wandering around Peace Park, we saw a man standing on the corner by the A-bomb dome. And he had a sign that said "Survivors Speak" and had a bunch of kind of like information on the ground next to him. And so we felt that we obviously had to go over and talk to him. And this man, his mother was 4 months pregnant with him when the atomic bomb went off. And she somehow survived, gave birth to him, and she is now the oldest living survivor from the attack on Hiroshima. She is 106. That is so insane to me. But this man has been standing there next to the atomic bomb dome for the last 18 years. He said he's been out there every single day, sharing the extensive information that he has collected over the years about the whole experience, you know, what was happening politically, all of it, sharing his knowledge, just trying to spread the word about the importance of world peace. And I just found that to be so incredible. And I just think that I keep finding like endless examples for that just speaks to the incredible character of the Japanese people. Needless to say, it was a very fascinating conversation to talk to him. I think that I am just going to maybe leave this audio journal entry there for today. It makes you really appreciate life because it is so fragile and fleeting. It is December 2nd, 8:20 p.m., and we are just getting back from an incredibly long day, and it was so much fun. I was saying to Owen that I think that sometimes emotion, particularly sad emotions, have a way of turning the world technicolor. Yesterday, we went to Hiroshima, and it was obviously an incredibly emotionally heavy day. But then to wake up with this refreshed sense of the beauty of life, just, I think, set the stage for an incredible day today. The sun was out. It was so beautiful. We're on the water. We had a full day of incredible activities planned. And what we decided to do was go back out to Itsukushima Island, which is an island off the coast, a barrier island, so to speak, of Honshu, and is right out in front of Hiroshima downtown area. You can see it across the water. And we actually went out there, not yesterday, but the day before, and we kind of just went in the afternoon to kind of get a lay of the land, see what there was to see, because we knew that we wanted to spend a whole day out there. There's just a lot. And so we wanted to just go and see it for ourselves and to make sure that when we came for our full day, we were prepared. And I mean that mostly actually from like a photo equipment standpoint. I think you guys know by now, we're huge photo, video nerds. And at a lot of these different like temple sites, you're not allowed to have tripods. So at the end of the day, it's like makes no sense to carry one around all day if you can't use it. So we were kind of just like wanted to see it, get a feel for it, and then come back fully prepared. It was meant to be like a scouting mission, if you will. Itsukushima Jinja is the temple that is right on the water. And then it has a beautiful Torii Gate that is out in the water during high tide, but at low tide, you can walk all the way to it. And it's so unique and so different. It's so obviously made of just hunks of tree or just trees, because a lot of these Torii Gates, and I'm talking about the red ones, beautiful, rich red orange color, 2 vertical pillars, and then they have the 2 horizontal. The top one is black, and then the next one below it is also this great red vermilion color, if you will. And it's so stunning. We wanted to make sure that we were out on the island all day because we wanted to see it at both high tide and low tide. At high tide, it's out there all by itself in the water. And it's just unlike any gate anywhere else in Japan. In fact, I do believe it is said to be one of the most famous Torii Gates in all of Japan. And so it draws a crowd. So then when it's low tide and you can walk all the way out there, people are under it, around it. And that's so cool and special in its own right because it's also huge. So when we got there on that first scouting mission, it was low tide. So we were able to stand right underneath it, approach it. It was so cool. And then today, when we arrived, it was high tide. So you take the ferry. It's only 100 yen. It's so crazy cheap. I'm trying to think, it's like $1.50 maybe, to take this ferry. And then we booked it straight to the temple that the Torii Gate is out in front of, because we did not do that the other day. We wanted to save it for today. And what is so magical about this temple is it's all just it's on the water. So during high tide, the water is underneath every single part of the temple. And it's just stunning. The way that the Japanese incorporate nature into their buildings, it just feels like there's no separation. Nature is outside, nature is inside. They are all one. And I think it just really kind of drives this point home that we are nature. It's all the same thing. And it's just so stunning. So there's this great breeze. The water is reflecting light up into the rafters of every corner of the temple. It was just so wildly magical. We spent a very long time walking around the temple today. Obviously, there was a lot of photographing that was going on, but it's just the prominence of it, the setting, it was just so stunning. The next thing that we really wanted to go do while we were on the island is there's this ropeway, kind of like, I'm trying to remember what these are called. They're like little gondolas that go all the way to the highest peak on the island. And you get up there through this beautiful park and all of the ginkgo trees and all of the maples. And this island is known for their maple trees. So we walked through the park and these maples are on fire. They are so red, so juicy. Reds, oranges, yellows, just layered. The island is known for it. In fact, the Momiji is the name of these treats that are from the island, and the literal translation is either it's red leaf, which insinuates the maple leaf, and they're these delicious little cakes that are made in these really beautiful little molds, and they look like a maple leaf, and you can get them filled with all sorts of different things. The red bean is the classic, delicious. We each got a red bean one, and then I also got a custard one, but the custard one I got tempura fried. It was so good. Honestly, if you fry it in a tempura batter and you put it on a stick, I will eat it. So anyways, we walked through these gorgeous leaves to get to the gondola, took it to the top, and we were up there for sunset, essentially. And sweeping views, 360-degree views in all directions. And there's just islands everywhere. And around a lot of these smaller barrier islands are these little kind of rafts. They're long, they're narrow, and they're actually oyster farms, because this area is also known for their oysters. Sadly, I'm a little suspicious that I might have a shellfish allergy, so I was not able to partake. But this whole area is just got all of these different oyster farms, and all of the different little food stalls all sell everything you can imagine you could do with an oyster. They do it here. So unfortunately, there was a lot of snacking that I missed out on in this particular occasion. But we got to the top and just took in all of the views. Time to take the tram down. And then when we came back down, we decided to walk around because it was fully dark by the time we made it back out of the woods, after coming back down from the little cable car. And I decided to load up some medium format film, specifically some 800T, which is, for those who don't know, probably don't care, 800 speed tungsten balanced film, which is specifically for shooting lights at night. Hey, I am currently walking around in near pitch black darkness. I don't know why I decided to record this now while I'm going up incredibly steep stairs. But I'm at Miyajima, which is an incredibly beautiful temple complex that's got the really beautiful Torii Gate that's out in the water. It is dark, very dark, as I said, and I have some film loaded up, and I am currently looking for night shots. I just really love the way that film blooms at night. And currently I'm headed towards a multi-story pagoda. But man, this island that this temple complex is on is just incredible. We're just across the water from Hiroshima. It's Hiroshima. I did clarify today. But we're looking back at it from across the water, and you take a ferry to get out here using the same card you use on the rail system, and it's just 100 yen. All right, I'm looking at a pagoda right now. It has this truly insane palm tree in front of it that has been it looks like it's been trained to grow at this crazy angle, and it's in front of this 5-story pagoda, and it's being lit up from the bottom. Wow, this is stunning. All right, I need to stop recording so I can set up this shot. All right, I'm all set up. I think I'm gonna take this exposure. I think it's gonna be about 2 seconds. All right, got my trigger release in. Here we go. That sad sound is my shutter. Hopefully this turns out. I love shooting film at night. It's a very meditative process because it requires a lot of patience. And I think that what I love most about film photography specifically is that it forces you to give your undivided attention to your subject, to your camera, to the image that you're making. I just feel like it's this instant way of dropping into the flow state. And I just love a process-based art of any kind. And so particularly at night, you just like really get into the zone. And so I then proceeded to shoot a roll of film. I shot the 5-story pagoda in addition to, I shot half of a roll of the Torii Gate. I probably have like 4 rolls of film of this one Torii Gate, but it's just so special. Something else that's very interesting and unique about this island is they have the same type of deer that Nara, which is a previous location that we had been to on our trip, and these deer are considered to be sacred. The deer in Nara, you are allowed to feed them. You can feed them these little, they just call them deer crackers. I think that they said that they're made out of like wheat and rice. But you can buy them for 200 yen. You get this cute little stack. And what is so amazing, because the Japanese people bow as a sign of respect. So people for centuries have been bowing to these deer and then presenting them with a deer cracker. So now the deer of Nara bow to you when they want a cracker. And it is the cutest thing. So these deer, and they just walk around bowing to everyone. In fact, I had this one really special moment. I was feeding 2 deer, and I also just looked up their diet in general. Turns out they also really love acorns. So I was collecting acorns from all over town to feed them because it just feels like everybody's giving them crackers. And acorns are part of their like natural diet. I don't know. I was just being a nerd. And also it just was so fun to be able to collect these little treats for them all over town and then to present them to them when we would come across a deer. And it was funny because some of them are picky. They prefer some of them prefer the rice crackers, but the older deer seem to love the acorns and appreciate them. And they just like hoover them out of your hand. You're just like gone. So fun. All of this to say, this island has the same deer. They do not bow because you're not allowed to feed them. But they're still so cute and they're still so accustomed to people. They are just like wandering through town. They'll be at like, I saw one walking into a shop where they sold rice paddles, and sometimes they can be a little cheeky. I saw one just snatch a snack out of this woman's bag. And then a lot of times, like, these poor deer are just eating people's trash that they like take out of their hands, take out of their bags, pockets when they're not paying attention. On 3 occasions today, I pulled some form of plastic out of a deer's mouth. And Owen said, oh my God, this is so embarrassing. I can't believe I'm about to admit this. On one occasion, I was bending over trying to pull plastic out of one of the deer's mouth, and another one came up behind me and like put its mouth on my snack on a stick. And by the time I was walking back to Owen, I had it in my mouth, and Owen's like, yeah, that deer definitely had your food in his mouth. And I was like, well, it's too late. I am not wasting this. I'm eating it. So anyways, if I don't make it back, that's probably what happened. If there's one thing that people ask me more than anything else, it's how I store my clothes on the road. I have been using the same set of Eagle Creek packet cubes for the last 8.5 years. Since 1975, Eagle Creek has logged more miles and cleared customs more than anyone in the business. That hard-won insight is built into everything they make, from luggage to packing cubes and everything in between. In fact, I store my film in an Eagle Creek bag that was handed down to me from my grandmother, who used it in her travels over 20 years ago. And guess what? It's still going strong. Check them out at headnowhere.com/Eagle Creek. As longtime fans of Eagle Creek, we're proud to have them as a part of our everyday life, but also as a sponsor of Camp Nowhere. 1 trekking pole, 2 trekking pole. I was just setting up my trekking poles because we are about to go for a hike, and I had a thought. I love my trekking poles so much. Just setting them up gets me so stoked to be out on trail. And I think that just having the right piece of gear for the job just kind of does that to you. It makes you excited to get outside and do what you love. As a self-proclaimed gear nerd, I have made detailed gear guides plus some handy affiliate links and discount codes for brands that we personally know, love, and trust. If you decide to grab anything from those links or gear guides, it helps support all of our creative projects that we're working on, from films to podcasts and life on the move. So, if you are gearing up for your next adventure, check it out at headnowhere.com/gear, and thank you so much for helping us stay rolling. Okay, gotta run. This trail is not gonna hike itself. This episode of Camp Nowhere is brought to you by Red Arc. For the last 4 years on the road, our entire life has been running on Red Arc's power management systems. Whether we're charging our camera gear, powering Starlink for remote work, or making this podcast in the middle of nowhere, Red Arc always keeps everything running smoothly. They've spent decades perfecting their products based on customer needs, putting in countless hours to design and test the toughest mobile power solutions out there. Born in the rugged terrain of Australia, Red Arc has been leading the way in mobile power solutions for 45 years. For more information about reliable off-grid power, go to headnowhere.com/redarc, which can also be found in the show notes. Hey there, Mac here. I don't know why I said that. It's always Mac. Anyways, If you're enjoying Camp Nowhere, maybe you would want to consider checking out our Patreon. By joining, you'll get access to a ton of cool things, such as the ad-free version of this podcast, early screenings to our films, behind-the-scenes glimpses into life on the road, and a whole lot more exclusive content. Plus, your support helps us keep creating and improving as multifaceted storytellers. We legitimately could not do it without you, so a big thank you to everyone who has already joined us in our sunny little corner of the internet. If you're curious, take a spin around at headnowhere.com/Patreon. See you there. So after we left the island, we still needed dinner, and we decided to go back to an okonomiyaki spot that we had been to 2 days before. And this was officially the first meal that we repeated. And I feel like I have to tell you why. So if you're not familiar, okonomiyaki is a Japanese savory pancake dish. It consists of like a floury batter mixed with noodles. Sometimes there's seafood in it. There's an kind of like an omelet on top. Mine had a lot of QP, which is a type of mayo. It's Japanese comfort food, and it kind of looks like this big souffle when it comes out, and it comes out on this hot skillet, and they give you this fun little like shovel thing to cut it, and then you can top it with all the pickled ginger you want. And I'm a big pickled ginger fan. So it's just like effectively a vehicle to eat as much pickled ginger as you want. And thankfully, they give you a ton of it on the side. Anyways, it's just a divine Japanese comfort food. Neither one of us had ever had it. And I can tell you for a fact, we've eaten it elsewhere in Japan. This is the birthplace. Hiroshima is the birthplace of okonomiyaki. And I will, in the show notes for this episode, I will absolutely be listing this particular spot. This guy was so awesome who owned this place. He was so stoked that we came back a second time. We ended up having a conversation via Google Translate, and he was asking where we were from. And we usually just tell people California out of sake of ease. And we were so excited to tell him that because he has California license plates all over his restaurant, and he's clearly into like mini truck and like drag racing culture. And it was just like a scene that we're very familiar with, and it was all just kind of like California street racing style posters. And anyways, needless to say, it was a wonderful day. Tomorrow, we are relocating to a very small town near Mount Fuji. I am very excited, and I think that we're both a little bit nervous because this is going to be by far our most technical day of travel yet. There's multiple buses, there's 2 bullet trains, and I think that there might even be 2 local trains. We don't have a great track record for nailing our big travel days. So I'll report back tomorrow and let you know how it goes. I'm very sad that our time is coming to an end here in Hiroshima. It has been so lovely. It's right on the coast. It's gorgeous. The people are nice. There's so much to do. And I've complimented like 6 people on their sweaters, and they all said they got them at vintage stores in downtown Hiroshima. And I am bummed leaving and not having been to a vintage store. Just means we have to come back. If this first episode of the audio diary illustrates anything, it is that I struggle with brevity. It's not my strong suit, and that's okay. But that's why I'm doing this, is to practice. So in this first audio diary, there's only 2 days because of the aforementioned struggles with brevity. Just to let you know, it is something that I got much better at as time went on. And so there will be at least 1, maybe 2 more of these episodes. because I got a little bit better at being a little bit more concise. And it kind of covers the entire rest of the 2 weeks that we're in Japan. Thanks for bearing with me. I really appreciate you. And I hope you enjoyed this. And I also hope desperately that you will come back for more. All right. See you next time.